Thank you all for being here today for this very important conversation. And thank you, Chief Arradondo, for your consistent leadership of our Minneapolis Police Department through this crisis. The federal government literally just passed the largest economic relief package in our nation's history. And tomorrow, Minnesotans will join hundreds of millions of Americans living under some form of stay-at-home order. Cities are on the front lines of navigating this crisis, facilitating the funding that comes from our federal partners and making sure that the guidance developed by our partners, by our public health experts, is implemented as designed. Minneapolis and Minnesota are getting high marks, heeding the advice of experts and maintaining good social distancing practices. Still, we know that for most residents, it's a matter of when, not if. We know that COVID-19 will touch every single corner of our city. But we should find hope in knowing that we are in the driver's seat when it comes to how deep, how fast the impacts are felt by our residents. And that rests on our collective ability to honor the governor's stay-at-home order. The order is built not to reduce the number of people that contract COVID-19, but to extend the time that we collectively have to prepare for the inevitable rate of infections. It's coming, and we must be ready. By taking action now and enforcing the governor's order at the local level, we can save lives. Now, there's been a lot of statistics that have been thrown at you recently regarding the governor's order to stay at home. Here's the one that I want you to focus on most: 100%. I expect 100% compliance by Minneapolis residents and visitors with the governor's stay-at-home order. A failure to comply with this order will result in our city reaching peak caseload sooner than we are ready to handle it. And therefore, a failure to comply with this order will result in lives lost. This is not optional. This is not a half measure. This is a mandate, and I expect it to be followed for the sake of our great city. Over the next 2 weeks, Minneapolis, as the largest, densest city in the state of Minnesota, has the opportunity to set a standard in our state. Slowing the spread of COVID-19 for our state starts in Minneapolis. That's a charge that I take very seriously, and I know that the rest of Minneapolis does as well. Now, I'm well aware that Minneapolis consistently ranks as the most active, fittest city in the entire nation. And as the nation slows down, many of us are feeling the pull to get outside, to recreate, to exercise, and to speed up. We are the city of lakes. That's a sense of civic pride here in our community, especially as workout centers and gyms have been shuttered. Lakes have stood out even more as an outlet for exercise and activity. But there have been moments where too many people are using them. Too many people congregating around them, and yes, by extension, too many people putting themselves at risk to contract COVID-19. So yesterday, the Minneapolis Park Board took action to close off sections of 2 parkways, both on Main Street on the east side of the river as well as West River Road. Over the next couple of days, we will be working with the Park Board to close the Park Board around Lake Harriet and Lake Nokomis. And today, I'm pleased to announce that Minneapolis is moving forward with a series of street changes as well that will limit vehicular traffic and will allow people to exercise without the risk of going against social distancing practices. On Plymouth Avenue North, our Public Works team is accelerating efforts to enhance the protected bikeway. That was to come later this spring and summer. On West 36 between DuPont Avenue and Bede-Makaska, we are enhancing protective space for walking and biking. Over on 26th Avenue South between 9th Street and Franklin, we're also enhancing space for walking and biking. Finally, on Main Street from the Stone Arch Bridge to 3rd Avenue, we're doing a partial closure in partnership with the Park Board. All of this has been in collaboration with our Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. So what this will do is it will give pedestrians, bicyclists, runners, more space to get exercise while maintaining safe social distancing. While we continue taking every available precaution to protect the health and well-being of our residents by enacting the stay-at-home order, we will do so through a lens of racial equity. That core value has literally been embedded into our emergency declaration. The MPD's focus, as you'll hear shortly from our chief, will be on education, will be on proactive outreach, followed by escalating enforcement for the sake of public health and public safety. With support from our state and federal partners becoming available soon, our team is also working hard to supplement their work with our comprehensive relief package, and we should be able to address our own comprehensive relief package early next week. In the meantime, we know that the imposition of penalties, especially on our low-income residents and people of color, would have lasting and disparate impacts. That's why penalties will be the last resort for our officers. And for our immigrant and our new American communities, let there be no doubt the same spirit of inclusivity and welcoming you to our city is alive and well. The stay-at-home order will not be a new tool for incarceration. The stay-at-home order will not change the MPD's position with respect to cooperating with federal immigration enforcement. Let me be clear, we will not cooperate. In Minneapolis, however, the stay-at-home order will and must be followed to keep people safe. Let me be clear, this directive will be enforced. It will be enforced by our city, and it will be enforced by our community. From business licensing to our health department staff who are on the front lines, we are committed to doing this right. If a city official is not around to tell you to go home, to stop congregating, you better be damn sure that we will have mothers around the city that will not tolerate selfishness. And if necessary, I will issue an emergency regulations, will issue fines, and pursue other means of enforcement as well. We have an obligation to each other, and that obligation extends to holding one another to a higher standard in Minneapolis, because it is that sense of heightened mutual expectation that will save lives and eventually will move us beyond this pandemic. We know that the world around us has changed significantly. The 24/7 news cycle used to feel fast. This pandemic has accelerated that speed to a dizzying pace. One thing hasn't changed. Our first responders are still delivering service and doing their job with excellence. On Sunday, 95 firefighters responded to a 4-alarm fire on the 2400 block of Central and Northeast. As you'll hear from our chief, the department's homeless and vulnerable population unit has been out every single day, helping connect people with essential city services with supports through this pandemic. Yes, like all organizations, our capacity has been tempered by this crisis. But this city government and our core city services will continue to help residents who are in need and will continue to function. So as we enter the next phase of this pandemic together, I ask for your patience. I ask for your partnership. And I ask for all of you in and around Minneapolis to set an example, one that the rest of the state, that the rest of this country can emulate. We are the state's economic engine, and that economic vitality derives from the strength of our people. So in the weeks ahead, please continue doing everything in your power to keep our community strong and healthy for as long as we possibly can. We are very much in this together. And you'll notice that I'm standing right now roughly 7 feet away from someone who I'm grateful to have a partner in Chief Arradondo. and our chief will discuss what to expect from officers tomorrow as this new law takes effect. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor Frey. I also want to thank you for the continued support that you are providing our Minneapolis police officers as we are embarking upon a very unprecedented time. But I assure you that we are certainly up to that challenge, and we will continue to ensure for the public safety of all of our residents and workers and visitors here in the city of Minneapolis. What I'd like to really stress upon, as the mayor has stated, is that the governor's executive order, as in terms of the Minneapolis Police Department, we will be focusing on ensuring that individuals or groups that are threatening the peace, safety, and health and general welfare of our community, that we will be first educating, making them aware, and then if necessary, we will use enforcement measures. As Mayor Frey has indicated, we have to take this very seriously. Our number one goal is trying to get voluntary compliance, but if that should fail, we will use enforcement measures that are appropriate. We also want to know that the best way for us to gain that voluntary compliance is for, as the mayor mentioned, our community members, our mothers, our faith leaders, our employers, that we make sure that everyone is really adhering to the best in terms of the CDC and MDH guidelines of social distancing. As we receive calls from the community that there's possible violations of this, MPD officers are being advised to respond to those locations, talk to those individuals, again, show them the executive order by the governor, and advise them that they must cease with that activity. We will try to make sure, again, that we get voluntary compliance. But the mayor is very definitive on this, and so am I as chief. If we are going to do anything to reduce and stop the spread of COVID-19, we must adhere to that advice from our most expert health professionals. So what will this look like to those folks in the Minneapolis area? Our officers will continue to make sure that public safety is first and paramount. When we hear of calls that might be in violation of the governor's executive order, we will go out there to advise and educate. If the conduct continues, then we will take enforcement actions. But rest assured, this pandemic does not mean in any way, shape, or form that we will start utilizing broad sweeping arrest powers. We will not be questioning or demanding papers from those in our new immigrant community or undocumented community. We will continue to have free travel through our streets and roadways. And we will be abiding by our policies and procedures and, of course, the Constitution. There will be equity involved, as the mayor said. I've had numerous conversations with community leaders and stakeholders regarding these enforcement measures, including earlier this morning the president of our local NAACP. We will continue to operate under the procedural justice lens. We will be both compassionate and empathetic in our service. If members of the community should have complaints regarding the treatment by a Minneapolis police officer, our Internal Affairs Unit and our Office of Police Conduct Review through the Civil Rights Department, please forward those on, make those calls as necessary. We are also looking out for those most vulnerable populations in our city, as the mayor indicated. We have a vulnerable populations unit which focuses on those who are experiencing homelessness in our community. We want to make sure that those individuals who are currently living in our city in unsheltered conditions, we want to make sure that they have the proper shelter and health resources there. So our Minneapolis Police Department will be teaming up with our social service agencies as well as our county social service providers to make sure that our most vulnerable are being taken care of. The mayor has also directed that we continue to look after our seniors. During this COVID-19, they are a high-risk population, and we want to make sure that we're doing all we can to protect them as well. I'm proud of the work that our men and women are doing every day. We are not immune to disasters or certain situations that have impacted our city greatly. Whether it be a 35W bridge collapse or a devastating tornado that goes through North Minneapolis, Minneapolis police officers We are there for you. We will continue to be there for you, and we will provide the best service in terms of both being very compassionate and empathetic always. So thank you.